Welcome back to another edition of That Fuzzing Rock Show interviews. If you guys dig what you see, make sure you click like on the video. Follow us over on Facebook at facebook.com/That Fuzzing Rock Show. Over on the YouTube side, it's youtube.com/That Fuzzing Rock Show. Subscribe. Make sure you click the notification bell. Let you know when we go on the air every time we go live. And definitely share with your friends. Now, check out this next interview. Guys, welcome back to That Fuzzing Rock Show interviews. We have a great one for you today. I'm going to welcome to the show Zeke Sky. Zeke, my friend, how are you, brother?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Oh, very awesome. Thank you. Listen, first off, I want to thank you for taking your time out to hang out with us today. We definitely appreciate having you.
Of course.
And let's get right into it, man. We're here to talk about the new release, Intergalactic Demon King. It's available, became available November 11th. It's on Atomic Fire Records, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. First, I want to start off talking about you. When did you first get interested in being a musician?
Quite young, probably when I was 10 or 11, but I mean, I wasn't, when I was that age, I wasn't aware of that the difference between being a musician and not a musician in life or anything like that. I just sort of came into contact with music, and I saw that a rebellion was happening in some places, and I wanted to be a part of it. So that probably started when I was 11 or so.
And that's when you first started playing guitar, was around 11?
Yes.
Gotcha. Let's talk about some of your earlier releases, because you started off releasing stuff in 2018, Animals of God and War, The Dark Beyond, and Light the Sky in 19 and 20 were singles. Lionheart Part 1 and 4 to EP 21, and in 22, of course, Intergalactic Demon King. How has your sound kind of evolved, if any, between when you first started releasing stuff and the new album?
Well, the first album was almost sort of like a live album. It wasn't really like a thoroughly produced product at all. It was just the first 6 months basically of this skeleton of a band that I had together. And to be completely frank about that record, by the time I had sort of gotten on Facebook and Instagram, I had sort of very quickly developed this kind of like cult following on the social media platforms. And I didn't have a band at the time of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the band was basically, I just wanted to make something that I could offer as a recording. And I didn't have really any idea about how to make a well-produced record and things like that. So those, the songs were, they're somewhat along the same lines as the ones I've been writing now. I just think that there's more to be had, and the guitar playing level came up, the piano playing level came up, the singing level came up, and the overall construction of the songs grew quite a bit. Now, Light the Sky is actually on Intergalactic Demon King, so okay. Some of it is kind of from the same thing. I would say there's just this is really the first time you're hearing this is really a debut album in many ways.
Gotcha. So now, aside from the obvious touring and gigs and all that stuff, did the pandemic have a pretty drastic effect on you, or?
It did at the time. I mean, it did in strange ways. Like, for one thing, I was playing a lot at the time that the pandemic happened, mm-hmm. Like a lot, and so that kind of immediately shifted gears. But even when the pandemic had happened, I was really wanting to do like a really concrete studio album, that like something that I could really stand behind. And the pandemic sort of provoked that. Mm-hmm. And it really put me in a position where I was going back to the drawing board. I would say, if anything, the higher quality of the songwriting and the more things kind of improved are sort of an artifact of me just having the time to do those things.
Sure. Now, not only do you sing and play guitar, you are versed in other instruments, as well as you compose as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what kind of training did you have, or lessons did you have to get to that level?
Really not much. Most of what I grew up, I happily grew up and came into age as a musician in the age of YouTube. And YouTube really unveiled quite a lot of it. It's sort of like the curtain coming up off a magician. It's like you have access to everything. I did have brief guitar lessons when I was very young, but nothing that really stuck for a very long time. My thing was, you know, when I got to college and stuff like that, I would just go into my room and I'd play 10 hours out of the day. And that was all I wanted to do. I wasn't even really aware then that there was a career as a professional musician. I didn't understand the whole thing. I just loved music and I loved trying to write songs and push myself on guitar work and piano work. So that's what I did.
So let's talk about influences. What kind of influences did you have kind of guiding you into your guitar playing, like your guitar playing and stuff like that?
A lot. I think there was some moments when I was younger where I got the lesson from bands like Coheed and Cambria, and even like some of the punk rock bands that had like a little bit more of an edge to them, like the Sum 41s of the world, where there actually were guitar solos.
Sure.
But then somewhere around when I was 19 or 20, I started really getting into the band Yes, and Steve Howe was just kind of this. It was just so strange because it's all happening in the context of what is presumably an arena rock band, and he played classical guitar and he played, you know, all kinds of ragtime style guitar, and it kind of clicked to me that you could try to be, that you didn't have to be just a rock guitar player, you could just be a virtuoso of everything that you touched.
Sure.
And then eventually a couple years after that, there is a guy called Guthrie Govan, who is, in my opinion, one of the better guitar players in the world. And the lesson from him was just kind of like everything Steve Howe had taught me on steroids, which was just that not only can you just be pretty good at every single different genre of music, you can actually very well be a master of every single genre of music if you learn the language and you learn to communicate and you take it seriously. And that was kind of the blueprint that I made for myself.
Let's talk gear for a second. Do you have a certain brand that you're loyal to, or do you kind of play it all?
I play a lot of stuff, and on the record, you're hearing a lot of the Friedman amps. You're hearing some Kiesel guitars. It really just depends on the song and the mood. But no, I don't end up with like gear loyalties at all. I'm not monogamous with gear.
So the current setup that you guys have now, how did this band come together? How did you wind up putting the band together?
Well, it's not even really a band, to be honest. It's me and just a drummer right now. I played all the instruments besides drums in the studio. And that came together in like late 2017. The drummer, Adam, had been playing in another band that I was playing in, and I stole him. And we started doing gigs together, and I started telling him that I wanted to do a studio record, and he wanted to do that. So, you know, we've just been working together pretty closely ever since. It's probably been 3 or 4 years we've worked pretty closely together.
So stolen drummer. Gotcha.
Stolen drummer, that's right.
I like it. So let's talk about this new album, man. It's called Intergalactic Demon King. It came out November 11th on Atomic Fire Records. 11 tracks, 2 are out already as singles. The title track, Intergalactic Demon King. Tell us a little bit about that song.
Yeah, it started out as a just fast kind of guitar riff, and it turned into like a bigger story with like a melodic chorus. And it's kind of it deals with similar topics that my other songs deal with, which are like themes of decadence and themes of kind of what happens when people change and become weak. And the guitar solo is kind of an ode a little bit to Hotel California, because it's got kind of a similar chord progression.
Gotcha.
And an ode to like a lot of the classical music I like.
And then you mentioned earlier Light the Sky. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Light the Sky was the first song that got written when the pandemic happened. That was of this new batch of songs. And it told this story vaguely around the last stand of the 300 at Thermopylae, the Spartans and the Persians.
Sure.
And it kind of dealt with the differences in how we treat suffering today and how we treat fear today versus what our ancestors must have felt. And it's kind of a battle call, that song.
I like it. Now, where did you guys record this album?
It was at a place called Backroom Studios. It is in New Jersey, and right the center mass of New Jersey in the Morrisville area.
And did you have a certain producer that you guys worked with, or?
Yeah, he's called Kevin Andreassian.
Okay.
He used to be the guitarist in a band called the Dillinger Escape Plan. and now he's just a fantastic producer.
Gotcha. Now, who did the artwork on the album?
So it's a guy called Insect Decay. His real name is Dafid Rizdal, and he's from Pakistan, actually.
Do you have a favorite on the album? I know it's like asking you to name a favorite kid, but do you have a favorite on the album?
You know, on most days it's Light the Sky. Light the Sky was the song that was the first song I had done with Kevin, and it opened my mind up to some composing and orchestration and production capacities that weren't really open to me before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the song that I feel most proud of on the album. I think that the packaging, you know, as far as what the perception of the album will be, is I think the fan favorite is likely Endlessly Forever, but we're going to find out.
Gotcha. So now, is there any plans maybe of a tour to support the album? Or
So there's no plans right now. I have not made any active inroads into doing that. However, you know, a lot of people have asked me to do a tour between agents and other people. I'm pretty sure one of them is going to happen. I'm just not going to do the wrong tour.
right?
I'm just not going to do the thing that's wrong for the band. If I think it's the wrong band that I'm opening for, or I can't really get my, you know, I feel like the sound can't be perfect. If there are any of those hiccups, I'm just not itching to do it. I know that the band's earned it, and me and Adam have earned it, and we would have a successful tour under the right circumstances, but I'm not going to force it.
No, man, that's understandable for sure. I got some on the spot. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Couple of questions for you. Speaking of this tour, imaginary tour. Let's say you're going on a tour. If you were only allowed to take 3 albums with you on tour, what would they be?
It would be Close to the Edge by Yes, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and what would the third one be? It would probably be Erotic Cakes by Guthrie Govan.
Okay. Gotcha. Another on the spot question for you. Now, and you kind of hit this where you said you wanted it to be the right tour. If you could tour right now with any 2 bands, who would they be?
I think the band would make sense with like Dream Theater, Metallica, something like that.
That would be shit. That'd be an awesome tour. We should put that together for sure.
Yeah.
So what's next for Zeke Sky, man? After the album gets
right now, I've been writing another album, which is my main focus in music, is to write music. That's always been my thing. And sort of seeing what the response to the album is. I do think like one of the problems is you shouldn't just make it your goal to tour. That just is very arbitrary. I think when the audience precipitates a certain appetite to the music, that can make the music beneficial to play in the right context.
Mm-hmm.
That is when tours should happen. This touring lifestyle thing it's not really for me. I want to do the things that are meaningful and purposeful.
I mean, that's kind of the industry standard too, is album tour. That's kind of the norm anyways, you know?
Yeah. And hopefully, you know, with more established bands, they have fan bases that are consuming every single album. And a lot of the times the fans find that if they like the last album, a lot of times they find they like the next album. Sometimes it doesn't happen quite like that. And they don't want to come out and see you play your new, very different stuff. Some fans are very, very loyal. Everyone's different.
So anything else you want to tell the folks before we wrap up?
No, I think those were some good questions.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. And some great answers as well. So guys, make sure you go out and get Intergalactic Demon King by Zeke Sky. It's out there now on November 11th. It's on Atomic Fire Records. Make sure you guys are checking your streaming platforms and look out for more to come from Zeke as well. For more info, you guys can check Zeke out at ZekeSky.com, Facebook.com/Zeke Sky, Instagram at Zeke Sky Official, and on Twitter at Sky Zeke. You can also check out atomicfire-records.com. Facebook and Insta is Atomic Fire Records, and Twitter is Atomic Fire Rec. That'd be REC. Zeke, man, I appreciate you taking out your time to hang with us today, and look forward to a lot of good things for you, man, for sure.
All right, man. Thank you.
Stop by and check us out again, man. We're definitely love to have you on.
Will do.